Marcus Thompson was just having lunch with his 7-year-old son when a gunman burst into their favorite diner. As the desperate man waved his weapon at terrified customers, Marcus faced an impossible choice: stay hidden and protect Tyler, or risk everything to save a pregnant stranger's life. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Thompson was having lunch with his 7-year-old son Tyler at their favorite diner when everything changed. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they were celebrating Tyler's good grades with burgers and milkshakes. Tyler was telling his dad about the science project he wanted to do when Marcus heard shouting from the front of the restaurant. "Everyone get down. Now," a man's voice screamed. Marcus looked up and saw a man in a black hoodie pointing a gun at the cashier. The gunman's hands were shaking and his eyes looked wild and desperate. Other customers were already dropping to the floor in terror. Marcus's first instinct was to protect Tyler. He quickly pulled his son under their table, covering him with his own body. "Daddy, what's happening?" Tyler whispered, his voice trembling with fear. "Stay quiet, buddy. Don't move," Marcus whispered back, his heart pounding so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. From under the table, Marcus could see the gunman waving his weapon around frantically. He was shouting at the terrified cashier to empty the register. The young girl behind the counter was crying and shaking so badly she could barely open the cash drawer. "Hurry up," the gunman yelled. "I don't have all day." That's when Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. In the booth directly across from theirs, a heavily pregnant woman was trying to hide under her table. She looked like she was about 8 months pregnant, and she was struggling to get low enough to protect herself. She was alone with no one to help her. The woman was clearly terrified. She kept looking around desperately, probably hoping someone would help her. But everyone else was focused on staying hidden and keeping themselves safe. Marcus watched as the gunman turned away from the cashier and started looking around the restaurant. His eyes were scanning the room, looking at all the people hiding under tables and behind chairs. Marcus realized with horror that the gunman was getting more agitated and unpredictable. "Where is everyone's money?" the gunman shouted. "I want everyone to put their wallets and purses on the floor where I can see them." People started throwing their belongings out from under tables and chairs. The pregnant woman was fumbling with her purse, but she was having trouble moving quickly because of her condition. "You!" The gunman suddenly pointed his gun directly at the pregnant woman. "You're moving too slow. Get up." The woman tried to stand up, but she was so scared and so pregnant that she lost her balance and stumbled. This seemed to make the gunman even angrier. "I said get up," he screamed, moving toward her with the gun pointed at her belly. Marcus saw the terror in the woman's eyes. She was crying and trying to protect her unborn baby with her hands. In that moment, Marcus knew he couldn't just hide and watch this happen. He whispered to Tyler, "Stay under this table no matter what happens. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe." "Daddy, no." Tyler grabbed onto his father's shirt. "Don't leave me." Marcus looked into his son's frightened eyes. "I have to help that lady and her baby. You stay hidden, okay? I'll be right back." Before Tyler could protest again, Marcus crawled out from under the table and stood up slowly. "Hey," Marcus called out to the gunman, trying to keep his voice calm and steady. "Leave her alone. She's pregnant." The gunman spun around and pointed the gun at Marcus. "Sit back down. This is none of your business." "Look, I understand you need money," Marcus said, taking a small step forward with his hands raised. "But she's about to have a baby. She can't move fast. Don't hurt her." "I'm not going to hurt anyone if people just do what I say," the gunman shouted, but Marcus could see that his hands were shaking even more now. Marcus could tell that this wasn't a professional criminal. This was probably someone desperate, maybe someone who had lost his job or gotten into debt. The man looked young, maybe in his early 20s, and he seemed more scared than dangerous. "What's your name?" Marcus asked gently, taking another small step forward. "Don't try to trick me," the gunman said, but there was less anger in his voice now and more fear. "I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to understand. My name is Marcus. What's yours?" The gunman was quiet for a moment, looking confused by Marcus's calm approach. "Derek," he said finally. "Derek, I can see you're scared. I'm scared too. We're all scared. But that lady over there, she's not just scared for herself. She's scared for her baby. Can you understand that?" Derek looked over at the pregnant woman, who was still crying and holding her belly protectively. For a moment, his face showed something that looked like regret. "I don't want to hurt anyone," Derek said, and now his voice was shaking too. I need money. My mom is sick and we're going to lose our house and I don't know what else to do." Marcus felt a wave of sympathy for this young man, even though he was holding a gun. Derek, I understand you're in a tough situation. But this isn't the way to solve it. Someone could get hurt. You could get hurt. I know, Derek said, and Marcus could see tears starting to form in his eyes. But I don't know what else to do. The bank won't give us a loan. My mom needs surgery and insurance won't cover it all. There are other ways to get help, Marcus said gently. There are programs for people in your situation. Churches, community groups, fundraising. You don't have to do this. Derek was listening, but he was still pointing the gun around nervously. That's when Marcus heard something that made his heart stop, sirens in the distance, getting closer. Derek, do you hear that? Marcus said. The police are coming. If you're still holding that gun when they get here, this is going to end very badly for you. Derek's eyes went wide with panic. No. I can't go to jail. My mom needs me. The pregnant woman chose that moment to try to stand up again, probably hoping to get to safety before the police arrived. But she moved too quickly and lost her balance, falling backward toward the hard tile floor. Without thinking, Marcus lunged forward to catch her. But Derek saw Marcus moving fast in his direction and panicked. He swung the gun toward Marcus and the woman. Stay back, Derek screamed. Marcus knew he had only seconds to act. The pregnant woman was falling, Derek was about to shoot, and the police were almost at the door. Marcus threw himself between Derek's gun and the pregnant woman, wrapping his arms around her to break her fall and shield her from any gunshots. The gun went off. Marcus felt a burning pain in his shoulder, but he held onto the woman and made sure she landed safely on the ground with him on top, protecting her and her unborn baby. Are you okay? Marcus asked the woman, ignoring the pain shooting through his shoulder. Yes, I think so, she gasped. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Derek was staring at them in shock, the gun hanging loose in his hand. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shoot anyone. The police burst through the door at that moment, their weapons drawn. Drop your weapon. Now. Derek looked around wildly, then dropped the gun and fell to his knees with his hands up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. The next few minutes were chaos. Paramedics rushed in to check on Marcus's shoulder and make sure the pregnant woman was okay. Police officers were taking statements and securing the scene. Tyler ran out from under the table and hugged his father, crying. Daddy, you're bleeding. Tyler sobbed. It's okay, buddy, Marcus said, wrapping his good arm around his son. It's just a scratch. Everyone is safe. The pregnant woman was sitting nearby being checked by a paramedic. She kept looking over at Marcus with tears in her eyes. Sir, she called out to him. I don't even know your name, but you saved my baby's life. And mine. My name is Marcus, he said with a smile. And I'm just glad you and your baby are okay. I'm Sarah, she said. Sarah Williams. And I will never ever forget what you did for us. The paramedics determined that Marcus's shoulder wound wasn't serious. The bullet had just grazed him. They bandaged it up and said he would be fine in a few weeks. Derek was arrested, but Marcus could see that he was just a scared kid who had made a terrible mistake. Before the police took him away, Marcus walked over to where Derek was sitting in handcuffs. Derek, Marcus said quietly, I hope you get the help you need. And I hope your mom gets better. Derek looked up at Marcus with amazement. You're not angry at me? I shot you. You're not a bad person, Marcus said. You just made a bad choice because you were desperate. We all make mistakes when we're scared. I'm so sorry, Derek said, tears streaming down his face. I know you are. Focus on making better choices from now on. That evening, Marcus and Tyler went home to their small apartment. Tyler helped his dad make dinner, being extra careful and helpful because of his father's injured shoulder. Daddy, Tyler said as they ate their spaghetti, were you scared today? Marcus thought about the question. Yes, buddy. I was very scared. Then why did you help that lady? Because sometimes when we see someone who needs help, we have to be brave even when we're scared. That lady was going to have a baby, and she needed someone to protect her. But what if you got hurt worse? What if something happened to you? Marcus put down his fork and looked at his son seriously. Tyler, you are the most important thing in my whole world. I would never do anything that would leave you alone. But sometimes, we have to take small risks to help other people, especially when they can't help themselves. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. Like when I helped Jenny at school when those big kids were being mean to her? Exactly like that, Marcus smiled. You stood up for someone who needed help even though you were smaller than the bullies. And you stood up for the lady and her baby, even though the bad man had a gun. That's right. Tyler was quiet for a moment, then looked up at his dad with pride in his eyes. "I think you're a hero, Daddy." Marcus laughed softly. "I'm not a hero, buddy. I'm just a dad who wants to teach his son to do the right thing." That night, Marcus tucked Tyler into bed like he did every night. But tonight felt different. Tonight, Tyler looked at his father like he was the bravest person in the world. "Daddy," Tyler said sleepily, "I want to be just like you when I grow up." "You're already just like me in all the ways that matter," Marcus said, kissing his son's forehead. "You're kind, you're brave, and you care about other people." The next morning was Sunday. Marcus was making pancakes for breakfast when the phone rang. He looked at the caller ID, but it just said, "Unknown number." "Hello?" Marcus answered. "Is this Marcus Thompson?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Marcus." "Mr. Thompson, please hold for the President of the United States." Marcus nearly dropped the phone. "I'm sorry, what?" "Please hold for President Johnson." Marcus stood in his kitchen, staring at the phone in disbelief. This had to be some kind of joke. Tyler was sitting at the table eating his pancakes, completely unaware that his father was about to have the most surreal conversation of his life. "Mr. Thompson?" A man's voice came on the line, and Marcus recognized it immediately from television and news broadcasts. "Yes, sir," Marcus managed to say. "This is President Johnson. I'm calling to personally thank you for your heroic actions yesterday at the Riverside Diner." Marcus sat down heavily in a chair, his legs suddenly feeling weak. "Mr. President, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, son. I wanted to say something to you. What you did yesterday, putting yourself between a gunman and a pregnant woman, that's the kind of courage and selflessness that makes America great." "I just did what anyone would do," Marcus said, still not quite believing this was happening. "No, Mr. Thompson. Not everyone would do what you did. Most people, faced with a man with a gun, would think only of their own safety. You thought about a stranger and her unborn child. You risked your life to protect them." Marcus looked over at Tyler, who was watching him with curious eyes. "Mr. President, I have a son. He was with me yesterday. Everything I did thinking about what kind of man I want him to grow up to be." "And what kind of man is that?" President Johnson asked. "The kind who helps people when they need it, even when it's scary or difficult." "Well, Mr. Thompson, I'd say you're setting a pretty good example. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm calling." Marcus waited, not sure what the president could possibly want from him. "Mr. Thompson, have you ever heard of the Presidential Citizens Medal?" "No, sir." "It's one of the highest honors we can give to a civilian. It's awarded to citizens who have performed exemplary deeds of service for their country or their fellow citizens. And I would like to present you with this medal." Marcus felt like he was in a dream. "Sir, I don't think I deserve anything like that. I just helped one person." "You helped one person, yes. But you also showed everyone in that restaurant, everyone who heard about what you did, that there are still people willing to risk everything to protect a stranger. That's worth honoring." I don't know what to say." "Say you'll come to Washington, D.C. next month so I can present you with this medal personally. And bring your son. I'd like to meet the young man whose father is such a fine example of American courage." Marcus looked at Tyler again, imagining his son's face when he found out they were going to meet the president. "Yes, sir. We'll be there." "Excellent. My staff will call you this week to arrange all the details." "And Mr. Thompson?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you. Thank you for showing us what it means to be a good neighbor, a good father, and a good American." After Marcus hung up the phone, he sat in stunned silence for several minutes. "Daddy, who was that?" Tyler asked, finishing the last of his pancakes. "Tyler," Marcus said slowly, "how would you like to meet the President of the United States?" Tyler's eyes went wide. "Really? The real president?" "The real president. He wants to give Daddy an award for helping that lady yesterday." Tyler jumped up from his chair and ran to hug his father. "Daddy, you really are a hero." Word of the president's call spread quickly through their small community. By Monday morning, Marcus's phone was ringing constantly with calls from reporters, neighbors, and people he hadn't heard from in years. The local newspaper wanted to do a story. The TV news stations wanted interviews. But Marcus turned most of them down. He didn't want the attention. He just wanted to go back to his normal life with Tyler. But there was one call he was happy to receive. It was from Sarah Williams, the pregnant woman he had protected. "Marcus," she said, "I heard about the president calling you. I'm so happy you're getting recognized for what you did. How are you feeling, Sarah? How's the baby?" "We're both perfect thanks to you. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to let you know that I had the baby yesterday." A healthy baby girl. Marcus felt a wave of joy wash over him. That's wonderful news. Congratulations. Marcus, I named her Hope. Hope Marcus Williams. I hope you don't mind that I used your name. Marcus felt tears welling up in his eyes. I'm honored, Sarah. That's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done. You saved her life before she was even born. It seemed right. 3 weeks later, Marcus and Tyler flew to Washington, D.C. Tyler had never been on a plane before, and he pressed his face to the window for the entire flight, amazed by the view of clouds and cities below. When they arrived at the White House, Tyler could barely contain his excitement. Daddy, is this really where the president lives? This is it, buddy. They were given a private tour of the White House before the medal ceremony. Tyler asked a million questions and took pictures with his disposable camera. Marcus watched his son's wonder and excitement and felt grateful that this experience would be something Tyler would remember for the rest of his life. The medal ceremony was held in the Oval Office with just a few people present: Marcus, Tyler, President Johnson, and a photographer to document the moment. Tyler, President Johnson said, kneeling down to the boy's eye level, your daddy is a very brave man. You should be proud of him. I am proud of him, Tyler said with the confidence that only a 7-year-old could have. He's the best daddy in the whole world. President Johnson smiled and looked up at Marcus. I think you're raising a fine young man here, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, sir. Tyler is my whole world. President Johnson stood up and picked up the medal from his desk. Marcus Thompson, for your courage in protecting a pregnant woman and her unborn child from an armed gunman, risking your own life to ensure their safety, I present you with the Presidential Citizen's Medal. As the president pinned the medal to Marcus's jacket, Tyler clapped and cheered. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the honor, but also by the reminder of why he had acted the way he did, to show his son what it meant to do the right thing. After the ceremony, President Johnson sat down with Marcus and Tyler for a few minutes of conversation. Mr. Thompson, what do you plan to do with all this attention you've been getting? Marcus thought for a moment. Honestly, sir, I just want to go back to my regular life. I want to keep being a good father to Tyler and keep working hard at my job. That's admirable, President Johnson said. But I hope you'll consider that your story has inspired a lot of people. Maybe you could use that inspiration to help others. What do you mean? There are programs that need people like you. Community outreach, mentoring young people, showing them that heroism isn't about being famous or special, it's about making the right choice when it matters. Marcus looked at Tyler, who was examining the presidential seal on the president's desk. I'd like that. I want Tyler to grow up in a world where people help each other. Then help make that world, President Johnson said with a smile. On the flight home, Tyler fell asleep holding the picture that had been taken of him with the president. Marcus looked down at his son and thought about everything that had happened. 3 weeks ago, he had been just a regular single dad trying to raise his son right. Now he had a medal from the president and a story that people across the country were talking about. But the most important thing hadn't changed. He was still a father who wanted to teach his son to be a good person. And Tyler was still a little boy who looked up to his dad and wanted to make him proud. When they got home, Marcus hung the medal on the wall in Tyler's bedroom, right next to a drawing Tyler had made of the two of them. Daddy, Tyler said that night as Marcus tucked him into bed, are you famous now? I don't know about famous, Marcus said. But I hope people remember that what I did wasn't special. Anyone can choose to help someone who needs it. Will you teach me to be brave like you? Marcus smiled and kissed his son's forehead. You're already brave, Tyler. You just need to remember to use that bravery to help other people when they need it. Over the next few months, Marcus did start speaking to community groups and schools. He would tell his story, but always with the same message: heroism isn't about being stronger or braver than everyone else. It's about caring enough about other people to act when they need help. Tyler would sometimes come with him to these speaking events. Marcus would always introduce his son and explain that everything he did was to show Tyler what kind of man he wanted him to become. Derek, the young man who had held up the diner, was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But the judge took Marcus's testimony about Derek's circumstances into account and recommended that Derek receive counseling and job training while incarcerated. Marcus visited Derek in prison once, bringing information about programs that could help Derek's mother with her medical bills. Derek cried and apologized again, and Marcus told him the same thing he had said that day in the diner: focus on making better choices from now on. Sarah Williams sent Marcus pictures of baby Hope every month. The little girl was healthy and beautiful, and Sarah never forgot to remind Marcus that Hope was alive because of his courage. A year after the incident, Marcus received a letter from Derek. He had been released early for good behavior and had gotten a job through a prison rehabilitation program. He was taking care of his mother, who was recovering well from her surgery. Derek wrote that he thought about Marcus every day and was trying to live his life in a way that would honor the second chance Marcus had helped give him. Tyler kept the letter and said he wanted to write back to Derek. "Daddy, you said everyone deserves a second chance. I want to tell Derek that I'm glad he's making good choices now." Marcus looked at his 8-year-old son with amazement. "You know what, buddy? I think that's a great idea." 3 years after that day in the diner, Marcus and Tyler were having lunch at the same restaurant where it all happened. The place had been remodeled and looked completely different, but they still liked to go there sometimes. Tyler, now 10 years old, looked around the restaurant thoughtfully. "Daddy, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't helped that lady?" "Sometimes," Marcus admitted. "But not in a sad way. I think about how one moment, one choice can change everything. If I hadn't helped Sarah, baby Hope might not be here. Derek might never have gotten the help he needed. And you and I might never have learned how good it feels to do the right thing even when it's scary. And we never would have met the president," Tyler added with a grin. "That's true too." Tyler was quiet for a moment, then looked at his father seriously. "Daddy, I want to be just like you when I grow up." "You know what I hope, Tyler?" "What?" "I hope you become even better than me. I hope you find ways to help people that I never thought of. I hope you make choices that make the world a little bit better." Tyler smiled. "I will, Daddy. I promise." Marcus looked at his son and felt a deep sense of pride and hope. Tyler was already showing signs of the kind of person Marcus had hoped he would become: kind, thoughtful, brave when it mattered. The medal from the president was nice and the recognition was an honor. But the real reward was sitting across from him, eating a burger and making plans to help other people. Marcus had learned that being a hero wasn't about doing one big dramatic thing. It was about making the choice every day to care about other people. It was about teaching your children that they have the power to make a difference in someone else's life. And most importantly, it was about understanding that the smallest act of courage, standing up for someone who can't stand up for themselves, can ripple out and touch more lives than you ever imagine. When they finished lunch and walked out of the diner, Tyler took his father's hand. "Daddy?" "Yes, buddy? I love you." "I love you too, Tyler. More than you'll ever know." As they walked home together, Marcus thought about all the ways his life had changed since that day 3 years ago. But the most important thing, his love for his son and his commitment to being a good father, that had never changed at all. And that, Marcus knew, was exactly as it should be.